my feet close to my butt, I can start flaring my hips open as I hip up to the ceiling for another arm bar. Now something Ant will do is he will twist his wrist. He's going to turn his arm to try to take away the angle for the arm bar. So one thing I like to do is I like to take my heels and cross them, and I like to pinch his wrist to control. Now when he tries to rotate his wrist, it's not nearly as easy to rotate. It's harder for him to change the angle in that arm bar. So if I put this arm bar on, I feel like he's rotating that arm. Rotate this, yep. And I feel like I can't get the angle. I'll control the wrist with my heels, and I'll drive my hips up. I will bridge into the arm for the arm bar. So I'm here, capture, bridge up, and there's a submission. So we have the belly down arm bar, and now you guys have seen the belly up arm bar. The last thing I'm going to talk about out of the crucifix is the arm bar back take dilemma based on Ant's low hips versus his high hips. If Ant keeps his hips low and he keeps his hips on the floor and I put this pressure on, he has to tap. The way for Ant to relieve pressure in the arm bar is for him to lift his hips up off the floor, driving hips real high. Yes. Now when I try to put the arm bar on, it's not nearly as easy. I don't have the pressure. Ant can alleviate the pressure for the arm bar by lifting the hips, but that opens them up to a back take. I'm going to take this left leg here. I'm going to bring it underneath his body, getting my knee to his hip. And now I'm going to push off his hip with my knee, and we end up in back control with the arm trapped because it was in a crucifix. Now when Ant goes to defend his neck, we have no defensive hands. We can go through and get the finish. So that's an important key insight for the arm bar. I'm going to show that again. When I am in a back crucifix with a belly up arm bar, if he keeps his hips down, I'm going to stay on the arm bar and try to finish him. If he picks his hips up to alleviate pressure from the arm bar, I slide my leg underneath of his body, surrounding his hips between my two knees, and I take the back. One more. My cross knee comes in. I take the crucifix. Now, maybe Ant rolled, or maybe I forced him to roll. I can also take the initiative here. So I can back heel, doing a forward roll. I can force him to roll myself. There's other ways to roll too. Let's go back. Carry me over Ant. There it is. Awesome. Or here, I can also go back the other way. I can sit through, and I can pull him back in this direction. And that works as well. Okay, there's a few different ways you can sit. Either way, we sit into our crucifix. Now from the crucifix, I start to put pressure on the arm bar. If Ant lifts his hips, he alleviates pressure on the arm bar and I can't finish. But I'm going to take my left knee now, bring it in underneath, and I'm going to put it on this side over here of his hip. So now Ant's hips are between my two knees here. I collect him with my knees, I solidify my control, and now I have both of Ant's arms trapped, and it's going to be very easy now to go through and get our finish. A lot of information. That was just the lower body. So those are the ways to attack an open turtle inserting our lower body first. I can insert my near foot, or my foot on the near side. I can insert my foot on the far side. I can insert my straight knee on the near side, or I can insert my cross knee on the near side. And you saw a number of ways to deal with that. Now let's go to inserting the upper body. This time, Ant's going to be in an open turtle, and rather than being focused on getting my feet or my knees in, I'm going to focus on getting my hands into position first. When I'm going to get my hands into position, the way I move, the grips I choose to take will be based upon his elbow position. Okay, take an open turtle for me. Now if I'm here and Ant's elbows are relatively closed, Okay, let's say open turtle, like kind of open, like I can't break him down, but his elbows are still tight. It's hard for me to get in through and get to wrist grips. So when he has closed elbows, like so, it becomes easier for me to come up over here and go after the neck because his arms are low. If he opens his elbows, so that when I try to come in here and he's like connecting his ear to his shoulder, shoulder to ear here, and he's got open elbows here, now it's easier for me to go underneath and start taking other variations of grips, maybe such as a claw grip here. Claw grip, wrist grip, and we'll see how I can use this to start breaking my opponent down as well. So inserting upper body first. Let's first talk about open elbows. So we're gonna say the elbows are more open. He's kind of guarding the neck here, but it becomes easy for me to go underneath the elbow like so. So when I insert my arms first, I'm gonna go a near wrist grip, just like so, and I'm gonna use my wrist grip to break him down to a shoulder. With this wrist grip, I pull his wrist in. I'm gonna roll his weight over that wrist grip, putting him on his shoulder just like so. Now he's in a less athletic position. I have a near wrist grip, and I'm gonna go with a far side claw grip. So my left arm goes inside behind the elbow, and I grab here at the neck or shoulder on the far side. Now with my claw grip, I can start to either try to put my hook in from here, or if I want, I can use my left elbow to try to break him down to his hip. Now my hook goes in, I do a chair sit with my wrist grip and my claw grip, and I get the back. Guys, one of the best grips you can get when you're grappling somebody, especially if you get behind them, is this straight wrist grip from the rear, where I come behind and inside the elbow, and I grab the wrist. Okay, we're gonna look at I guess we could call this a wrist ride as well. So I'll use the term wrist ride. I'm riding the wrist from the rear. We will see double wrist rides as well. Not quite yet, we'll get to that later in the video today. For now, we're going with a single wrist ride. So I'm here, he's got an open turtle. I put in a straight wrist ride right here on the near side. I'm gonna pull his hand in, and I'm gonna start to drive forward, pulling his hand in, forcing his shoulder down to the floor. As I do this, I can use my left elbow to pull and do a hip breakdown and pull him down like so. Okay, one more time on that. So I use my initial wrist ride to get an initial shoulder breakdown, and then I follow it up with a hip breakdown. Now from this position, my left arm goes here as a claw grip. My left hook goes in, and I take the back using my wrist grip and the claw grip right here. Claw grip here, wrist grip here. I can do the same thing on the other side. Okay, I can go the far side wrist grip and the near side claw grip. Maybe in this position, maybe I can't reach Ant's wrist. Maybe he's got his wrist out and away, and he's got his head tucked to this side of the shoulder over here, so I can't go for a choke. I can't get to the wrist. Okay, so what do? When I see this kind of thing, and I can't get to the wrist, and I can't get to a choke, this is the open gap now. You guys see there's an open gap here. I'm gonna put in my hand underneath, and I'm gonna take my claw grip. This is the grip we used on the far side, but now I'm doing it on the near side. My left hand can go through, once again getting that wrist grip. Okay, so I'm underneath, wrist grip, pulling it in. And now from here, there's a lot of different things we can do. I can either run to the far side, trying to break him down on this side, and now this is the same thing we were working on the other side. I break him down to the shoulder, hook goes in, and we chair sit. This is exactly what we did on the other side. There's other ways I can do this too though. Once again, I come in, I can't get the wrist, so I go for the neck, I can't get the neck, so I take a near side claw grip. My left hand goes and finds the far wrist. Now from here, I'm gonna circle towards Ant's elbow. I'm gonna flare my elbow open, and look at how that opens up the space here. So I'm gonna force him open, and my hook can go in so easy, because I've got that space opened up. Now I'm here, I got one hook in, I've got good points of control. There's a number of ways I can break them down from here. The simplest is to go right back to our power half. My claw grip comes out, elbow goes down, we crunch the chin to the chest, I take my seatbelt, I take my top hip scissor, I extend his knee away from the chest, and I put my hook in. Okay, so let's summarize that again real quick. If possible, bring these back. If possible, I'll go with a near side wrist and a far side claw. Okay? A near side wrist, break him down. Sorry, that's a step I missed. Break him down, and a far side claw. So near side wrist, far side claw, or near side claw and far side wrist. We're working with a claw grip, wrist grip combination, either on this side or on this side. Okay, we're just getting there a little different. I can break him down here to the shoulder, and now it's easy to get my claw grip on the far side, or I can get my claw grip on the near side first, then go wrist, and I can start to open him up. So we can go with a near side wrist and a far side claw, or a near side claw and a far side wrist ride. So we've seen one wrist ride coupled with one claw grip on each side. Now let's look at the idea of a double wrist ride. So I'm in here. Maybe I have a partner who's real roly-poly. Okay, they're really good at turning and facing me, and I would much rather play more squarely behind them than be off to one side. I feel like if I'm off to one side, maybe Ant is really good at dropping to this hip and recovering guard, and maybe he's just really good at recovering guard there. So rather than taking that danger, I'm gonna take my right knee off the floor, and I'm almost square behind him. I'm right over this hip, facing the far shoulder, so I'm kind of got that same diagonal control working for me. My knees are off the floor and I'm more mobile. Okay? Now from right here, I go through. Since it's an open turtle, I can go behind both hands and I can take a double wrist ride. Now the great thing about a double wrist ride, it is damn tough for Ant to get away from me. I just need to put my chin on the shoulder here, and now if Ant goes to roll me around and shake me off his back, dude, seriously, go crazy here. Keep going. Move around. Stay in the frame. Stand down. Fight stroke. Go on. Fight stroke. It is so damn hard for him to get away from me when I've just got this double wrist ride. I take both hands, I glue them to me, I pull them to me, I put my chest on his back. Ant can't use either hand, both hands are controlled, and anywhere he tries to move, anywhere he moves, go ahead, I stay right behind him. Very hard to get away from. And then from here, he's gonna keep his knees tight to his chest. Very easy for me to just start coming in and putting my hooks in, just like we looked at before with a heel wedge. So that's if Ant starts rolling around from the double wrist ride. But what if he doesn't roll around? What if he just stays where he is? Same thing. I'm here, open turtle. I decide that for whatever reason, I want to insert my upper body first rather than my lower body. And I decide that the way I'm going to do it is with a double wrist ride. If we saw that if Ant rolls around, my double wrist ride will keep me to him very well. But what if he doesn't? What if he just stays here? My double wrist rides allow me to really open the elbows. Okay? Let's rotate here. Let's face that way. Perfect. You'll see when I come to my double wrist ride, and now I'm going to plant his wrist on the floor, and I'm going to walk around the corner and flare my elbow open. And look at how much space there is there now. And I want you to keep your elbows tight to your body, like you don't want me to get hooks in, okay? I'm just going to take his elbow, I'll bump it out and open, and my hook can go in so easy. Because I have a wrist rod on the other side, I can just do the same thing. I don't even need to do a power half. I can just bump that elbow forward and put my hook in. Now with 2 hooks in, if I want, I can go through and I can start doing a power half. Breaking him down, and now I've got both hooks in. Lock either a body triangle or go to a post rear mount. One more time with the double wrist ride. Face the camera this time. So I'm here, I go behind, I come behind and inside both elbows, getting both wrists. Now from here I pick a side. I start walking around, I flare that elbow open and I make room. 1 hook. Other elbow flares open, I make room. 2 hooks. And now we're ready to either flatten him out, or I can just extend and flatten him out onto his stomach, which really sucks. It really sucks for Ant. That's actually probably one of the best things you can do from here. So let me show that again. When I'm here, I'm just gonna straighten my body out. I'm gonna ride forward, I'm gonna kick my legs straight back, I'm gonna flatten Ant's hips to the floor with my own hips. That's one option. If I get up here with 2 hooks in. Another option here with 2 hooks in, power half, sag off to one side, use your left elbow to crunch that chin into the chest, secure a seatbelt, and now we have our back control. So we saw a near wrist ride with a far claw grip. We saw a far wrist ride with a near claw grip. And now we've seen a double wrist ride. There's one more upper body configuration that we haven't talked about too much yet, and how to break people down with it, and that's going to be the seatbelt. We're just going to go with a good old-fashioned seatbelt control, and that's another great way to control somebody. From the seatbelt, there's a few different ways we can break our opponent down, and look to open them up. So let's start taking a look. And open turtle toward the camera. So remember our open elbow, closed elbow dilemma? When Ant's elbow's open, it's easy for me to go in and start getting claw grips. Claw grips, half claw grips, and wrist rides. Full claw, half claw, and wrist rides are all great options anytime the elbows are open. Now what if I'm trying to get inside and Ant is trying to close that space off? He's got those elbows in tight to the hips. Well, now it's easier for me to come this way and go over the neck. We're going to see in the future we got ways that we can actually choke our opponent right from here. But we're not working on submissions quite yet. We're still working on positional skills. So from here, Ant has a closed elbow. I can't get in behind and inside the elbow, so I go over the top and I lock the seatbelt, just like so. Now, when I lock a seatbelt, there's a few things I can do. I can do a breakdown, where I can use my right knee outside of Ant's knee here. I can drive off my left foot, and I can break him down to a hip. Now from the seatbelt, I get my Kimura seatbelt, step over, and we chair sit. Okay, we've seen that in the past. That's kind of a view. I get in here, I get to my seatbelt. Now maybe I use my hip breakdown, but Ant stays up on the right elbow. So I go here and he's up on the elbow. I can't break him down. Another good way to get a breakdown with a seatbelt is to use a near elbow knee block. Remember that for closed turtles, I was putting my knee here and pulling and tipping him over that knee. If he's using his elbow for base, I can put my knee on the outside of the elbow, and I can just pull him over that elbow. And I can break him down. Now with the breakdown, I can come through, get my grips, to that. There's one more important breakdown of the seatbelt that I want to go through. And this is what I call a shoulder line back step. We can do this with low amplitude to do a shoulder breakdown, or we can do it with high amplitude to get a seated breakdown. Let's take a look. Hanson turtle. Once again, the elbows are closed, so I can't get behind and inside the elbow, so I come over and I get my seatbelt. I'm going to show you guys the low amplitude shoulder line back step first. And can I have you face the pole more? This way. Perfect. So I'm here. With a seatbelt, one of the things that I really want to control here is Ant's head. So I'm going to ride forward, taking my right shoulder and putting it on Ant's head. I shrug my shoulder forward, and I put this kind of outside part of my shoulder on the back of his head. I don't put the top of my shoulder. I don't come like this. That's not what we're looking for. I take my shoulder over his head, and it's kind of the bicep, tricep outside of the arm. This part of the arm is putting the pressure on. So I'm here, I shrug that shoulder forward, and I put weight on the head. Now with weight on the head, I'm going to continue to put weight on Ant until I get his head down to the floor. Once I get Ant's head down to the floor, then you can put your own head on the floor. If I put my own head on the floor before Ant goes to the floor, you'll get this result. I go here, and he slips off. So put your opponent's head to the floor using your shoulder. From our seatbelt, I shrug my right shoulder on top of Ant's head. I'm going to put weight onto his head until I get his head to the floor. Then I can put my own head to the floor. Once my own head is on the floor, I'm going to begin a backstepping process where I backstep toward Ant's shoulder line. And as I do that, I pull him over and take the back. Okay? Let me do that once a little cleaner. So first, let's talk about low amplitude. I just showed the higher amplitude one. Let's show the low amplitude. I take my shoulder behind the head, and I begin to backstep, and I just pull him down like so. Okay, let me show that again. So the way this looks, guys, without Ant there, I put the seatbelt down, I put the shoulder pressure in, and then I'm going to backstep, pulling Ant to me as I go to my hip. Pressure down, backstep, pulling him down to the hip. So I'm here, I can't get behind and inside the elbow on this side, his elbow's too tight, so I go over the elbow to the neck, to a seatbelt. I put my right shoulder behind his head, I begin to backstep, and I break him down to his shoulder. Now from here, my hook can go in, I chair sit, and I take the back. So that was a low amplitude shoulder line back step. Remember, we're circling and backstepping to and across Ant's shoulder line. Now I'm going to show you a high amplitude variation of this where we take it to a seated position. Let's do, what way do I want to show? I'm actually going to have you face the wall. Yeah, perfect. So, I'm going to get my same seatbelt. I'm going to put my right shoulder on Ant's head the same way we did before, and then I'm going to put my own head on the mat as well. Now I'm going to walk to Ant's shoulder line, and once I'm on the shoulder line, I'm going to open up with my left leg, and I'm going to sit to my butt as I pull Ant through, and we land, face the camera, we land here in a seated breakdown position, where I'm on my butt, Ant is on his butt, and his hips are between my two knees. Now from here, Ant is going to keep his knees tight to the chest. That's okay. I take my one hook in, heel wedge, press. Then we fall to the side of the bottom hook. Ant's got the other knee tight. I can use either a heel wedge, or I can come in with a top hip scissor and then an extension. So that was a seatbelt with a shoulder line back step breakdown with high amplitude to a seated position. Okay, one more time on that one. Probably doesn't matter. They can get another look at it, another angle. Yeah, sure. So I get my turtle. I try to get here to the wrist and I can't. Ant's elbows are closed. So I come up over the top here for my seatbelt grip. My first thing is to get my shoulder on the back of Ant's head and to use that to put his head on the floor. Once his head is on the floor, then you can put your own head on the floor. Once I got weight into his head. I come up to this tripod position standing on his shoulder line. And then I'm going to hit a back step with my left leg sitting right to my butt as I use my seatbelt to roll Ant through. And we land right here in this seated position with a seated breakdown. Ant's knees are tight to the chest. From this position, I tend to find it easier to put the hook in on the side of the elbow I'm controlling. He has this arm free to defend. I'm not controlling that arm at all. I have some control of this arm. So I lift his elbow up, my heel wedge goes in, I kick. We fall onto the bottom side, onto the bottom hook, and now Ant's got his defenses up there for the top hook. I initially lock a top hip scissor, so when Ant tries to go to turtle, I have his top hip controlled, and then I can either choose to extend, or I can choose to put my heel wedge in. And they're great, both great options. I think that's the long and short of attacking an open turtle. There's a ton of content there, but let's not forget the simplicity of it. Let's not forget the simplicity. I know there's a lot of different details, a lot of different things to remember, but let's come down to a few simple things. When I first get to a turtle, I read my opponent. Are they in an open turtle or are they in a closed turtle? If they are in a closed turtle, we saw a couple weeks ago, we first want to test their base and balance with off balance and using a tight waist and hip breakdowns. That's for a closed turtle. If my opponent takes an open turtle, where they're a little wider, now they have very good base, but they're not defending their inside position, and it becomes very easy to start putting limbs in. We saw that in an open turtle, I can put my legs in first, or I can put my arms in first. If I decide to put my legs in first, there's a number of options. I can put in the near side hook, the near side foot, or I can put in my foot on the far side. If you're more of a knee entry person rather than a foot entry person, we have some knee options. I don't have to put my feet first. I can put in a straight knee on the near side, or I can come in with my cross knee on the near side. Okay, so those are all good options of bringing in the feet or the knees first. Now maybe you don't want to, maybe you want to keep your legs and feet out for base and you'd rather start gripping up with your hands. Well, then we got a number of good options with our upper body. We can go with a near side wrist ride, followed by a far side claw grip. We could go with a near side claw grip, followed by a far side wrist ride. We could go with a double wrist ride, but inside and behind both elbows where I control both wrists. Or if my opponent has closed elbows, then it's hard to get inside and behind that first elbow for either a wrist ride or a claw grip or anything because the elbow's closed. But when the elbow's closed, just go over the elbow and get that seat belt. With that seat belt, we can start doing hip breakdowns and shoulder breakdowns, and we saw we can even do that shoulder line back step to break them down to an unathletic position from where we can do our work. No matter what, whenever we're working on turtle, we want to break them down to an unathletic position. If it's closed turtle, we use tight waist and hip breakdowns. If it's an open turtle, we're using things like power half Nelsons and claw grips, and we're getting those elbows out of position. We're not letting them stay in a stable turtle. We're always testing their balance, and we always want to break them down from a position like this where they have a lot of athleticism, and we want to put them in a position where they have very limited athleticism. If you can do that, if you can keep yourself in an athletic position, and you can force them into an unathletic position, you have a strong advantage. It would be almost like asking somebody to do a foot race when you've tied an extra weight, a 20, 30 pound weight onto the foot, onto one of their ankles. If you can get this kind of advantage, it's going to be easy to go through and get the win. So again, keep yourself in an athletic position from where you can move easily. Break them down to an unathletic position where they can't move, and you'll be far more likely to advance in position and get your submissions.